Welcome back. It's that point in the show when we watch as our special guest gets 1 year older before our very eyes because it's time for the birthday of the week. Last Saturday we showed you these youthful pictures of our guest and told you he was a cheeky chappie who's one of radio's funniest newsreaders. Well, those clues produced a few funny answers in themselves, but most people weren't fooled. Here is music hall nut and the voice behind the news Huddlines, Roy Hudd.
Hey, Max.
Well,
looks even better on a deck chair, look at that.
Well, congratulations. I must tell you, a couple of the wrong guesses were Andrew Gardner, somebody said Tony Blackburn, and someone else said Roy Hubb.
Roy Hubb.
Here, can't cap that, can we?
Roy Hubb and Emu, we're well known for it.
Yes. What was your... apart from now, of course...
Andrew Gardner's got more hair than I am, what do you mean?
Hardly. What is your most memorable birthday? Today accepted, of course.
Well, of course, yeah. Well, I think actually my most memorable birthday was actually my birthday this year, which of course was Thursday. It was a very memorable one because we recorded the news Huddlines that day, and that's always a marvellous day anyway to do. But, you know, we go through writers like there's no tomorrows on that programme because we have lots and lots of gags. And Billy Dainty's son came along, you know, he was about 20, and he'd written half a dozen jokes, and he turned up about 10 to 1 just before we went on the air and gave me these half dozen jokes. And one of them was really good. I put it in the show, and it actually got out on the air. And to see old Lawrence's face after the show was a good birthday. It was quite a nice gag, actually. It was, I see Maggie Thatcher's just commissioned a new robot to go in, you know, to destroy the very biggest of unexploded bombs. It's Francis Pym on a pole.
Oh, yes, very nice. Yeah. When did your love affair with the music hall start, then?
Well, I think really, funny enough, talking to glamorous grannies, through my gran, really, who was a very glamorous granny, and she used to, she brought me up, you know, on an old age pension, the pair of us, and we used to go along to the Croydon Empire nearly every Tuesday night, and saw a lot of the old turns there, you know, and that really sort of got me keen and interested.
Now you've got your very own old age pension, it's sweet. Now, we have prepared a little film...
I'll smack him in the mouth in a minute, I
swear. We have prepared a little film.
And he's got old age pensioners' teeth, isn't it?
Anyway, we've got no time for applause. We have prepared a little film about the early years of Roy Hudd. Most of it was removed by the censor, of course, but Cheryl reports, and Roy can come back afterwards if he wants to.
Roy was born in Croydon, and it wasn't long before he smelt the grease paint and heard the roar of the crowd. Showbiz called, as Cousin Mavis remembers.
When he was about 3, he would do his party piece, and then he'd come on and do When the Red, Red Robin Comes bobbing along.
When the red, red robin comes bobbing along.
And little Roy always made sure his audience knew exactly who he was.
Always, if anybody asked his name, he would always say, Roy Hudd, R-O-Y-H-U-D-D.
As soon as he was old enough, Roy joined his local youth club, and in no time at all he was a leading light in the concert party. In those days, just his looks made people fall about laughing, according to his friend at the time, Eddie Cunningham.
And I remember he had a very thin neck with an Adam's apple, teeth like that, makes it more protruding, and I used to call him the strangled chicken.
The two of them formed a song and dance double act, and Eddie remembers a very embarrassing moment during one performance.
And I walked on without him, and he came rushing in, and he went, no, like that, and his flies were completely undone. And I looked down and I went, your flies are undone. And Roy went, he stopped singing, went straight up the front, embarrassed from that moment on.
So Roy went off to Butlins at Clacton-on-Sea. Not for a holiday, though. He got a job as a Redcoat. His buddy Stan Edwards remembers their first meeting.
He was hanging from the coat hooks in the entrance to the main dining hall at the camp.
Why?
Well, he was a bit thin in those days. People used to take advantage of him, and the camp comic used to hang his jacket up for him. The trouble was, he was still in it.
Roy was a big hit at the camp, especially when he did his funny walk. But he did have 1 or 2 problems.
He was having trouble with his balls at the time. Oh, I realised that, but it's serious. No, he was. I mean, they kept falling out and rolling all over the stage.
Roy, you better explain that last bit.
I better explain that last bit. No, yeah. Actually, it was Stan Edwards, an old pal of mine who was a Redcoat with me there, and we used to do the bingo together, you know, and in those days, it's got even worse now, but I mean, we used to sort of love doing the bingo because we used to sort of throw all the balls all over the place and all this sort of stuff and call out the wrong numbers, you know, instead of, you know, Gladstone's Den number 10, it was in those days, you know. We used to call out all daft things and get a lot of laughs, and then all the campers complained about it, and so we weren't taking it seriously enough, so we got told all.
What about the social side? Did all the nice girls love a Redcoat?
Well, yes, we used to have two sort of rows of chalets, and there was a sort of a bridge between these two chalets, and brilliant timing by Billy Butlin, because they used to have all the young single girls on one side of this bridge. And all the Redcoats on the other side. And you know, you can imagine the traffic was quite heavy various times, you know, across this bridge. But they used to have the security guards who used to sort of hide behind posts and watch, you know, as you went to see who was going across this bridge. We used to call it the bridge over the River Kwai, you know.
Yes.
And I sort of had a bit of an advantage because I was so thin I could actually hide behind posts, you know.
Apart from who you hoped to share, who did you actually share a chalet with in those days?
With Eddie, my pal, we both became Redcoats. But on one side of me was a chap called Dave O'Marney. He was an Irish fella, and he became Dave Allen, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And the other side was a fellow who was a singer in the rock and roll band there, and that was Harry Webb, and he became Cliff Richard.
Of course, happy
Not
days.
bad, eh? Yeah.
Now, we have plenty of suggestions for birthday gifts, most of them Max Miller hats or Max Miller suits, but Derek Wood of Lewisham obviously knows that for Roy there's one legendary music hall performer who's even more of an idol than Maxie. Let's see if he's right. Who was it then, Roy?
Well, probably Dan Leno.
Dan Leno is right. That's what Derek thought, and he thought we should present you with, and I do hope you like these, programmes from the 19th century, including Dan Leno's appearances at the Empire and one other place, the Trocadero.
Oh, how beautiful.
Just for you.
Look at those, aren't they lovely, eh?
Just
Look
what you
at
want.
that.
I'm sure you'll enjoy those.
Rather.
Prizes for Derek will be on their way in a few days, and he's got an extra celebration because today's his birthday as well. One other surprise for you, Roy, if you can tear you away from those, and it must be difficult. Just to remind you of those holiday camp days, we have a genuine Redcoat's, Butlin's Redcoat with our Saturday badge on it as well. How's that?
It's the same one, it's mine.
It's all yours. There you are, sir.
Wonderful.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much indeed, folks. Thank you.
There we are.
Lovely.
Now, as for our non-smilers, you're our last chance with the lady, Roy. See if you can get her going with one of your old holiday camp routines. What do you say?
Well, you won't let me touch her, will you? Well, I tell you what we could try, actually, Paul. I tell you what, this is an old sing-song number we used to do on the holiday camps. If I can remember it, it used to go something like this. Sarah, Sarah, sitting in the shoe shine shop. All day long she sits and shines, all day long she shines and sits. Sarah, Sarah, sitting in the shoe shine shop. She sits and shines and shines and sits, sits and shines and shines and sits. Sarah, Sarah, sitting in the shoe shine shop. How about that?
Oh.
Yes?
Well.
Hey, not bad, Oh, well, I'm glad you like that. Right, I'll tell you what we do. I'm glad you like that one, so I'll tell you what, we'll all have a go at it now, right? All have a go nice and loud, but ever so slow. All right, Paul? Everybody now. Ready?
Sarah, Sarah, sitting in the shoe shine shop. All day long she sits and shines.